We all know the storylines at this point for Penn State football. They are returning Drew Aller. They are returning Kyron Allen and Nick Singleton in the backfield. They are returning Dennis Sutton. They're returning a lot, maybe more than any team in college football from last season. They are built in the mold of 2023 Michigan and 2024 Ohio State. Teams that ran it back one more time, had key motivations from results in previous years to chase the ultimate prize, that being a college football national championship. But if the Penn State Nittany Lions want to take that next step, they want to beat Ohio State this season. If they want to make a run like Ohio State did this past year and win a national championship, despite everything that's returning, there's one position group that needs to improve for this team to make that step, and it's wide receiver. And this has been a position group of need for years in Happy Valley, Pennsylvania. They've had great players coming off the edge at the defensive end position. They've had really good run games. You know, we know what Penn State has been great at. We know what they've been able to put into the National Football League. The Ohio State game from this past season, I think, really magnified this issue, where they could not win in one-on-one coverage situations against the Ohio State defensive backs, and thus they could not create that balance that they needed on the offensive side of the football to be able to keep an opposing defense off balance. Now, when you're looking at if this Penn State wide receiver room has improved, you're essentially comparing the departing talent, which was the main two guys from last season, and you're comparing two guys that they brought in the transfer portal, and you're trying to determine right now if the new guys are going to be better from the old guys. You're comparing Harrison Wallace and Amari Evans. Wallace transferred out. He's headed to Ole Miss, 720 yards and 4 touchdowns last season. And Amari Evans, who transferred out to Seattle, Washington to play for the Huskies at Washington, 400, said a lot of Washington there, 415 yards and 5 touchdowns. Will they see improvements with those guys departing, with Devonte Ross coming in from a Group of 5 Troy program, and Kyron Hudson transferring in from fellow Big Ten foe USC? Let's start with Devonte Ross, because if Penn State is going to improve and create more explosive plays down the field, it's going to start and it's going to end with this guy. He provides the speed. He provides the playmaking ability. He provides the much-needed explosiveness that Penn State really needs from their wide receiver position. Last season, over 1,000 yards and 11 touchdowns, and I was able to catch him in a game against Iowa last year, and Iowa could not contain this guy from making big plays down the field. 5 catches, 142 yards, and 2 touchdowns against the Hawkeyes, and Troy gave Iowa everything they could handle and more at Kinnick Stadium on that particular afternoon. We saw Amari Evans certainly get deep at times this past season, but they need somebody that can really strike fear in an opposing defense, that they need to be able to play off of them, that they need to be able to prevent the deep ball down the field. And I kind of watched some of this film from Devonte Ross. Is when he's able to get the football in space, he's then able to create big plays after the catch and certainly get 10 yards, 20 yards, 30 yards down the field. So I think when you're answering the question, is Penn State going to improve at the wide receiver position, I think a lot of it goes in to Devonte Ross. Now, there was a wide receiver transfer from Troy within the, Pac-12 for a year and then the Big Ten by the name of Tez Johnson. That worked out pretty well. We'll see if Devonte Ross can be the second coming of Tez Johnson. Penn State, they'd take that. They'd certainly take that in a heartbeat. Now, the more experienced of these two and the reliable veteran, that is Kyron Hudson. Kyron, you throw it in his direction, and he's going to come down with the football. Just 2 career drops. And here's how I would kind of summarize Kyron Hudson. I talk about the explosive playmaking ability of Devonte Ross at one of these transfer spots, and I look at a Kyron Hudson. I'm not sure if I see that type of explosiveness and big playability by Kyron personally. Like I said in the intro to him, I think he's a reliable veteran that you can go to in key third down situations, and he's going to get open down the field. I would not expect him to be a home run hitter consistently. Will he be able to hit one? Will he be able to hit a double into the gap? Will he be able to hit a triple fairly consistently? Yeah, I'd probably say so. But I don't think he's going to be the home run threat that Devonte Ross, I think, will be. Here's what I want to circle around with, because a lot of this has to do with what are the expectations for Penn State throwing the football. Where do we kind of view Penn State as an offense? I think the more that I break it down and the more that I kind of look at the Nittany Lions, I think that they're going to be a lot like 2023 Michigan. I think that they are going to be very much a run-first type of team. But just like J.J. McCarthy, in 2023, I think Drew Aller is going to be in a similar situation where they are going to ask him to make the throws. They are going to ask him to make the plays when they absolutely need to make those plays down the field. And the guys right now that are going to be making those plays are the aforementioned Devonte Ross and Kyron Hudson. You look at the rest of this wide receiver room, like Liam Clifford is coming back, 18 catches, 286 in the score last year. Tyseer Denmark, 2 catches, 28 yards in a score. Caden Saunders, Anthony Ivy, Peter Gonzalez. I think a couple of these guys are really going to have to step up into bigger roles for the Nittany Lions at the wide receiver position next season. Of course, they're really excited about a 5-star tight end Luke Reynolds replacing Tyler Warren in this passing offense. When answering the question, is this wide receiver group improved? I think it's certainly the pivot point, and I think the hinge point really is Devonte Ross. I think Kyron Hudson is on the level of maybe what they departed last season. But if Devonte Ross can be that true big play threat down the field that Harrison Wallace wasn't, that Amari Evans maybe wasn't as consistently, then this is going to be a passing attack that's going to be a lot more dynamic, and it's going to be a lot more explosive down the field. I still think when we get to the spring transfer portal period, I still believe that Penn State might be snooping around for a top-level wide receiver.